Hey guys, how's everything going? This is JSer. In the previous video, we've covered the fragment of relay, and in this video, let's try to add some input in our TODO app. So, I just figured this out yesterday, so I'm not very confident that I can explain it well, but I hope you can stick with me. I've already added input field here. You can see that I can input JSer TODO. When I tap the enter, nothing happens because this is just a pure UI and no functionality is added. Let's take a look at the source code. Okay, here is it. In our header, I add an input, and on key down, a handle key down, if it is enter key, we call the add to do from this props, and clear it. You see, so this is the basic UI. There's nothing fancy there. On change, we just update the state here. Okay, pretty standard stuff. And in our app, we've passed down. Where is it? Here, header, add to do. When it's add to do, here is the to do, right? So we need to do here is to update data through relay to GraphQL. Yeah. So obviously in our current GraphQL schema, you can see that there's only query user. Yeah, we can only query user, right? And by GraphQL, when we need to modify something or handle the user input, it's a concept of mutation. It means we mutate the graph. So in our GraphQL implementation schema here, we need to add something, right? Okay. By query, we can have query the user. Now we need to add the mutation. And what is the mutation? We create it. The mutation here is the same actually as the query. Just copy it. Which this is to expose. Let's expose the add to do, right? Add to do field. So name, mutation fields. We say this is add to do. So add to do a mutation. Where should you put it? Remember, we are actually mock the data in this node and hold the to do in an array, right? Obviously, we're free to accept user data, and we actually just need to push the new entry into this array. So let's just to keep things easy, simple, we just implement the mutation here. As you can see, already have the code here. This is just by any chance that I forgot what to do. So yeah, let's just rewrite it, okay? Okay, so we need to expose this one, add commutation. And this is the function specific to relay. And actually, I don't understand why we need the client mutation ID. But this video is for the basic understanding, so we can ignore that. Just remember in the relay version of GraphQL client, we use mutation with the client mutation ID, and the others is kind of like the same as in the new GraphQL object type. And we have the name, we have the field. Okay, we add the name. We say add to do. Oh, we just use capital letter here. And for mutation, we need to have some input. For query, there's no input. And yeah, we input and then output, right? This is the convention of relay, I guess. So for input, we input what? Input fields. Okay, actually I'm watching the comments here and typing, but I'll just try to redo it to make it more explanatory. Input is the not test, I guess it should be title. We have the to do, yeah, it's title, so I'll use title here. The title is type. Just like the GraphQL object, we have this type and a resolve, right? For input, there's no resolve, we just had a type. So the type is a GraphQL string. I'll copy here. It's nothing special. You can see we have some error here. It says mute and get payload is missing. Obviously, we haven't done it yet. Okay, the next one is output. This is just like for a REST API. When you post something, you might get something back, right? If you create a new post, you might get the post ID or the full data of that post. So this is what output field means. Output fields. Let's just leave it empty, and then just implement the mutate and get payload. This is the actual implementation. Like remember, GraphQL is the middle layer between the actual database or something, or a further microservice endpoint, and this layer abstracts everything and then provide a unified interface for the client, right? So this is the real stuff. Mutate and get payload. Let's see how we should do it. Okay, it's a function. Okay, it's obviously it's a function. This is a title. And this is actually the input we are defining in this input field. There's no user ID, and I've modified the original implementation, so we are only accepting title here. So now we already get a title. It's very simple. We just create a new to-do, right? New to-do, like creating an entry. ID. We need to ID to do 0, to do 1. So we just this is to do and to do's.end, and then title, and then what it is complete, right? Is complete false. And then what to do? To do we push into the database, and then we just return the entry. Okay. Now the response from this mutate and get payload, the payload will be passed down to these output fields and exposed to the client. So if we just do nothing here, nothing will be exposed. I think we can, wait a minute, allow me to export this and then add it to the index here. I think it's import from mutations. Not notations, it's from nodes. It says what? It cannot resolve name. Okay, this is right. So we update the schema. It's done. Let's see what changes. We have a query, and then we have a mutation. Now we can mutate data. Add to do, we get an input. The input is add to the input. Input is title and with ID. So I haven't figured out what the client mutation ID is. Let's forget about it. And then we return an add to the payload. The payload is client mutation. Nothing is there, right? Yeah, you see that nothing is there, but we want the real to-do payload, so we need to modify the stuff here. Output field. The first thing is that we need an ID. We can refer to the original like this. This is the same. Type, it's a string. We get the ID, and then what we want is title. It's also a string. And then we want is complete. It's not a string anymore, it's Boolean. Now we update the schema to see what we get. Okay, mutation, we now get return an add to the payload, and this add to the payload is ID title is complete, right? Wow, it's great. So yeah, this is the schema we want, and we also both have the schema and the implementation. So now let's move to our graphical and see what's there, what is there. So let's just first query the to-do list as we did before. For JSer 1, let's state as to-dos. We have two to-dos, to do 1, 0, to do 1, and then let's try to add a new to-do. So to write it, we add this mutation keyword and say, okay, this add to do mutation. So this should be add to do. Obviously, add to do have a input, which should be the title. This is not text. Let me reload it. It should be title. Yeah, title, new to do. It should be double quote, new to do. And then as the query, this is the response, right? At this response, we have the ID and title, and it's complete. Let's see what we have now. Ooh, you see, we add a new to do. Yeah, it's done. And then we add it again. It's to do 3. Now, if we go back to user, now we have 4, I guess, 4 to do. 0, 1, to do 3. Wow, perfect. So we now have the GraphQL, and then we need to hook things up in our Relay app, right? Okay, so in our Relay app, here, to do app here, in add to do, we need to trigger some function and pass down the title and send that data to the GraphQL, the add to do endpoint we had just added right now. And then when it's done, we need to update the Relay store, right? And just get the data and put it in our client and just render the data. So that's it. But it's much more complicated than I thought. Okay, so obviously we don't do everything in our component here, right? For the behavior, like add this to do and update the to do in our local client data, we just wrap it into another function. Like here it is, we put it into mutations, and then this is the thing as I just did, but I'll just keep it as a reference and then try to rewrite it because I just did this like last night and I actually forgot it, I guess. Okay, so we now add a to do mutation JS, and to get things started, I think we need to create the first, just like we query, we need to create a mutation, right? Like create a mutation, copy the mutation, like let me copy the dependency and this part and try to write something. Great, this is the mutation, and this we should start with just like a query, we just add it with the mutation, add to do mutation, and it actually has a input. Oh, I forgot, should I add a dollar sign? Yeah, we should add a dollar sign, input. Okay, why add to the input? Where is this data type from? Okay, so it should be in the GraphQL, add to do mutation GraphQL, this one. Where is it? Let's forget about it. And then, okay, so keep it and without type. Let's see what happens. Okay, we in this mutation we actually will call add to do, and then we input with input, right? And when we get the data, we need the ID and also title, and is complete or not. This is the mutation, and allow me to export a commit add to the mutation. We get a title is string. What do? We would trigger this mutation with this title, and that is the commitMutation method from React Relay. I guess I'll just call it, and oh, there's no type. Okay, I forgot what it is. I think okay. Oh, we need to first get the environment, and the other is the parameter. The parameter has the mutation, a variable, and updater. Okay, let's get the environment first. Environment, what is the type? I don't know. It should be in the app here. The environment here is this one, modern environment. This is the environment. Okay. So just add environment, commitMutation environment, and then this is the mutation. We just use this mutation. It says, and the other one is variables, I guess, is it? Yeah, variables. We only have one input here, so input and title. The title is this title, and then that's it. Commit, yeah. So this is the updater. We'll leave it be. Let's run the relay to update the relay GraphQL stuff, and we see that we actually need to type in for this input, and what this input it needs, actually we can get it from the GraphQL schema. It says add to do input. Let's add this type to where is it? Okay, here. Yeah, we add it, and it should be mandatory. We update again. Yeah, now it's passed. Okay, so we have this commit add mutation now. Let's put it into our app here. Add to do. Yeah, and then we just call this commit add to do. Oh, I cannot use the VS Code intelligence, which is shit. Okay, mutations, add to do mutation, and then we just call this function with this environment. Okay, this environment is already there. We could use the relay environment. That is because we just inject the modern environment through this context provider. So we get the environment and get a title. Looks fine. Looks like no error is complaining. Let's go to our app and see if we are making it. Okay, we like AAA. We press enter. Obviously, nothing is there. But let's see in the GraphQL if we get it. AAA, yeah, we have it. Now let's have if we reload it, it should be there actually. Yeah, I say B, again, reload it. Awesome. So actually we can, I think we should first put it into at the top, right? So let's rather than push, let's use unshift. Unshift. AAA, reload it, it should be there. Yeah. Now the last thing we want is to just avoid having to reload every time we enter something. We need to insert the data we get from the mutation and just put it into the UI, right? So for that purpose, please, let's just first install the Chrome extension for relay. I've already installed it. It's here, relay. And actually, you can see that it's kind of like a database or store, it says. You see that this is a root, okay? And then it holds one user, which is this user. This user has ID, JSer1, user, type is user. It has data, ID, and it has to-dos. To-do is a fragment, so it has a ref to array, and array and an object, and then has this raw data. Now, let's see, we have 3 to-dos now, right? Like we have every to-do with ID as a single entry, and then we create a graph to connect them together. This is what Relay does. And by the way, ID in Relay must be global unique, and we mustn't have a separate same ID for different objects or different types. So the ID must be unique. Okay, that's for the relay's convenience. So when we add something like say CCC, BBB, we can see that there's actually a new entry, right? Add to do payload, which is to do 3. This data obviously is got from the response. GraphQL, preview data, add to do. Yeah, this is the response we're getting. So relay, we have this entry, but this to do is not in this user's to do yet. So we need to put them into this array, right? So that's what the mutator is for, updater is for. So, okay, we update, and then we console log the store. And for debugging, let's just save the store to window. Okay, let's try it again, CCC. Now we have this store. Okay, we have this store, and there are actually a lot of APIs for this store to allow us to do whatever we want to modify the graph, the data. Okay, so first, if we get, I said the ID in relay is unique. So if we know the ID, we can get actually the entry or the record. The naming is record. The record in relay store as what we are inspecting now. So if we get user 1, you can see that we get what? Get the actually the user 1, this user, and we have actually has to do, right? So if we get, so I think it should be, now as I said, it's a graph. So the user is a node, the to do is a node, and this to do is an array holding this node, right? So actually we can access it to get linked to records. Linked records of to-dos. Great, you can see that we have 4 now, right? But we're actually having a new one. We need to push something into this array. So things starting getting very interesting. So rather than we just to get the hardcoded JSer 1, we need to actually get the user ID, right? So updater is store, but communication commit add to the mutation here, we get the user as well. We get user ID. Not user ID is good. Yeah, let's first just use user ID here. So const to-dos store get root and get user ID, get linked records to-dos const, and then we update it, right? By push, it's not working. We need to use the explicit and get set method. So I think okay, we fetch the user first. A user. Oh, rather than the user ID, actually we can actually get the user. Get the user. So to do is actually the user, and then user set linked records. It should be. We put the new to do in at the beginning, right? So this one is the second parameter is the payload actually. This should be add to do payload. I forgot what it is, right? Yeah, it is right. And then we put payload here and then get the original to-dos. And when we set it, the data will be update will be reflected to our UI instantly. So we don't need to care about. So now we get the user. The user how can we get the user? Yeah, actually we get the data user, right? So we just pass the data user back in. Great, great. So the user, what the type of this user? I don't like flow. Come on. The flow doesn't give me the nice, where is it? Nice type hint. What should I type for this user? It's implicit. It's in any is no good. Let's go to our app here. Get the user. This is the user. Okay. Yeah, the user actually is the user in the GraphQL, right? The user here. Yeah, that's just user. Use user here. It should be here. Yeah, user. Great. Now let's give it a try again to see if it works. DDD. No, it says user get link to records is not a function. Okay. Seems like we cannot use the user. Allow me to console log the user. We cannot, yeah, we cannot just call the user. I see. So we get user, let's say record, like, okay, user record. For that case, I just pass in the ID, or just to get the user ID here. But the user actually doesn't have ID, right? Because it's all, no, user has the ID. Yeah, we add the ID here. If we don't have the ID, you saw in the fragment, we cannot access it. So we get the ID here. And the store, get root, get user ID. This is the user record. I think this time it'll work. FFF. Get root is not a function. Oh, really? Okay, I'll store this. Store. Okay. In the store equals store. GGG. Store. Get root. Get. JSer1. It's not a function. It's, not get root, but get. Oh shit. Okay, it's not get root. Okay. Stretch. Get data ID is not function. Get data ID or get data ID. Record get data ID is not a function. Data ID, we don't call the get data ID. JSer1 actually, it says JSer1 store get JSer1 get linked records to dos. Yeah, we have this array. User record get linked. Something weird. To dos. I set a debugger here. JSer1. Actually, we get the to-dos. Now we set linked records. So, there's some problems in these set linked records. I forgot to add the name for this new field. Get data ID is not a function. I might get the wrong function. New node. nodes, new nodes, to-dos. Seems like no problem for me. It says record get data ID is not a function. Maybe payload is something wrong. Let's log the payload. Okay. The payload actually add to do. Okay, so we actually need to add the payload add to do. MMM. Still not okay. I did allow me to cheat on this. Payload. The payload is not a second parameter. Okay, I got it wrong. The payload is actually we need to get from the store. Get root field add to do. As we see, it's in the relay, and we add something. Oh, there's an error. Okay. Ooh. Something nasty happens. There's some error here. Payload root store get root field add to do. User record. User record getting linked. This one is not right. Oh, great! Now it's working. Okay, let's revise our. Here it says mutates. The example is root field. New node. Yeah, PPP. QQQ. Yeah, now you see that it's working. Yeah. Great. Now we have a working example for the basic mutation. Let's do some recap. The UI part is not that different, but in the handler, we put all logic in commit add to do mutation, pass in the environment. Because this is outside of our component, right? We can get the environment from the provider, but this util is not. It cannot get the environment. We could wrap it in the hooks like a use commit add to the mutation and pass in get the environment there. But we don't do that for now. Okay, and then we pass in the title. And to let us know where to add the data, we pass in the user. Within this user, we have the ID, and then get the record, and assign it with a new to-do list with a new array holding the new to-dos, and the new to-do is from the Mutation API GraphQL, which will be in the store with a key of add to do. So this is a problem. If you add two new to-do entry, they are actually in their whole. Okay, there's no record selecting. Really? If we don't store it, let's see what happens. Okay, that's RRR. You see we add to do payload. This is to do. Add to do, this is the key. Store. Ooh, let's log the store. Console log Windows store equals store. Let's restart our program to remove the to User only 2 now, so 111. Okay, now we have this new to do, store get add to do. Get root field. Oh, get root field. Store get root field. Add to do. Okay, we have this entry, which is to do 2. And now if we add a new one, 333. If you get it again, it should be to do 3. Yeah, so which means that the result of the mutation actually will be held to the key with the name of the mutation, right? The root field, yeah, the GraphQL root field is add to do. If we add a new to do after another one, the previous one will be gone. We cannot access it anymore. So that's it. But store get to do 2. Is this there? Oh, is there? Oh, it is there. So actually, if you always keep an ID in our response, we can also write it in as. Oh no, I'm sorry. We need to get the payload by calling this to get the payload so we can get the ID. So yeah, it will be overwritten. And we need to hold the data. Yeah, get the payload and then process it. Let's try it again. 444. 444 is here, but actually it's also in here. Yeah, pretty nice. So that's it. Hope it really helps, and it's very interesting. Though actually the updater stuff is a little complicated than I thought. Hey, but anyway, we've made it to add a new entry. In the following videos, we need to implement another thing, like the update. Like here, we can only update new one for real, for a crude operation on the database. We need to create. We finished now, and then remove, update, and delete. Oh, crude R. What is R? Create, rename, update, delete. Anyway, we will try to implement the update function in the next video by clicking this entry and allow us to edit it. Update. Okay, stay tuned. Hope it helps. See you next time. Bye-bye.